Hello everyone. In one of my previous video, we have seen how to create an EKS cluster for a particular region within AWS account from the terminal. In this video, we are going to use the terminal again to connect to an EKS cluster. All right, so without further ado, let's start. First of all, what I'm going to do, I will try to get the list of clusters that have been created in my AWS account. So I will type AWS followed by EKS followed by list clusters. And then optionally, I can specify the region where I have deployed all the clusters, in this case, which is US East 1 or North Virginia. And then I will press enter, all right? In few seconds, I will get the list of clusters that have been created in my AWS account, all right? So I can see there are 4 clusters that have been created. Now what I'm going to do, let's say I want to connect to this cluster so that I can deploy Kubernetes resources here. So to connect to this cluster, I will type AWS EKS followed by update kubeconfig and, update kubeconfig, and then I need to specify the name of the cluster, which is development web link, right? So that's the cluster that I'm trying to connect to. And then I can specify the region where the cluster has been deployed. In this case, it's US East 1. Providing the resource is optional. If you don't provide the region, it will take the default one from the environment variables. And then what I want, I think that's pretty all that I want. And then I will press enter. In few seconds, it will update my local kube configuration details so that I can connect to this development web link cluster. All right. Now, what I will do now, I will verify whether I'm really able to connect to this cluster. And to verify that, I will try to run kubectl get nodes command. If I get the nodes that are attached to this cluster, that means I'm successfully connected to the cluster. So if I press enter, and let's see what is happening. All right, so I have got an error, and the error says you must be logged into the server. All right, so far it was good, but the problem was that that development web links cluster was created by someone else, not me. So if the cluster or EKS cluster has been created by someone else, by default, AWS will not let you in that cluster. So what you need to do, I will run the same command again, but this time I will provide an IAM role which will have access to this cluster. So I have already copied the IAM role that I have created. So this is the IAM role which I have created. And in that role, I have defined what cluster it can access and what are the AWS and which AWS users can assume this role. All right, so that's what I want. And then I will press enter. So I can see my local kubeconfig file has been updated again. And then let's try to update the kubectl get nodes command again. Now this time I'm able to get all the nodes that are attached to this cluster. All right, so that's how we can connect to a cluster from the terminal. So the keynote from this video is, if the cluster is created by someone else, you will not be able to connect to the cluster. What you can do, talk to your AWS administrator and ask them that you need to access to the cluster, and they will give you some sort of permissions through IAM users or groups or roles. And that's how you can connect to the cluster. All right, so that's all. Thank you.